What's up, witches? My name is Lina Lee, also known as Lina the Jesus Witch here on the interwebs. Today, I want to share with you a few of my favorite tarot decks. Maybe not a few, because I have a couple more than just a few over here, but I want to share with you my favorite tarot decks, which ones they are, what deities I work with them, and how I use each one of them. But before we jump into that, I want to do a little introduction for those of you who don't know who I am. Like I said before, my name is Lina. I live in upstate New York with my husband and our 3 homeschooled children. My husband Jack and I have been together since high school. We're high school sweethearts, so we've been together for a hot minute. And I stay home with our kiddos while also educating the internet about Christian, or what I like to call Jesus witchery. I have a podcast called the Jesus Witch Podcast that I started in 2022. I also have like a free Discord group of like over 500 members that we've been kikiing in there since 2022. In addition to teaching people about Christian and Jesus witchery, we talk a lot about deconstruction. I also like to teach people how to make witchcraft a part of their everyday life. As I said before, I have 3 kids, so I don't have all the time in the world to, do as many rituals or as many spells as I want. And even people who don't have kids, we live in a very busy hustle and bustle society. And I really like to add a little bit of magic and a little bit of whimsy into my everyday to, 1, have spirituality be part of my life, and 2, just make this world a little bit more easy to cope with. If you want to learn a little bit more about me and my practice, I have a whole episode of my podcast, the Jesus Witch Podcast, called Meet Lina the Jesus Witch. I have an updated version of that one. I would recommend listening to the updated one, because in the first one, I was still like such an unevolved Christian witch. And like, honestly, if you listen to the first one and then listen to the second one, you could hear a lot of the deconstruction that happened to me over the place of just doing what I've been doing and sharing and podcasting and talking about Jesus witchery and Christian witchery online. My views changed a lot from the first time I recorded that episode to the updated one, but I will leave that episode in the description. So you can get to know me, get to know my practice a little bit better, and in an in-depth way. But the other little like highlighty things that I want to mention about me and my practice, I am one of the 4 matriarchs of the Ministry of Christ under the Divine Order of Christian Mysticism, which is a legit 501c church by Christian witches for Christian witches. So I feel like a lot of people here on the YouTubes have found me through that platform, but if you haven't, I will also leave the link for that in the description. I currently have 6 main deities in my practice. I have others that like kind of lurk or are here for different reasons other than me, or they were a very prevalent part of my practice at a point in time, but now they're not, and they still like hang around my space. But my 6 main ones, and this is a good segue into our little tarot video. Jesus, obviously, Lina the Jesus Witch, it's like in the name. Mama Mary, I started working with her after I had my 3rd baby. And I actually started working with her because my 3rd baby was an unexpected, accidental, like unassisted home birth. She was a planned home birth, but we didn't plan for the midwife not to be there. And I felt like the only deity who could like really resonate with that experience of it only being me and my husband while bringing this baby to the earth was Mama Mary, because she gave birth in a manger with just Joseph there. So, and I was lucky. My husband was a lot more experienced than Joseph, because we had 2 kids before that. So, he did really well. So I started working with her. Then I also work with the God of Abraham. Obviously, he's always been a foundational pillar in my practice. So has Ashra, which is his wife, his consort. We could talk more about her and how I work with her if that's something you guys are interested in talking about. I also work with Lilith, who is, I kind of describe her as like the Christian dark feminine divine deity, or dark divine feminine deity. There we go. That's like the wording that I wanted. there. She's in my practice a lot for like equality and partnership. She loves my husband because he's a very like equal and partnership kind of guy. So she tends to like take his side more. I have a little bit more princessy to me, and that will be explained with my last deity. But she's in my space to teach me about like partnership, teach me about equality, teach the both of us about that, and like obviously confidence, feeling good in your skin, feeling comfortable in your skin, helping move through purity culture. She's done a lot of that with me. And then the last deity that's very prevalent in my practice, and I would say she's like my comfort deity right now, I talk to her a lot, is Venus. I love the Roman goddess Venus. I know you may be asking yourself, hey Lina, why Venus and not Aphrodite? A lot of people do Aphrodite. That's like seems to be the more common approach, right? I chose Venus because I am not only a Taurus sun, but I am a Taurus moon. They're both conjunct each other because I was born on a new moon. And then I have my Venus in Taurus. So my Venus sign is in a Venus ruled sign. And then I'm a Libra rising. So I feel like Venus really like chose me with the astrological placements that I have. So that is why I work with her over Aphrodite. But I work with her for like beauty, love, power, strength, feeling like sort of similar in Lilith, where Lilith is very confident and like brash with herself. I feel like Venus gives more of that like confidence, but like in a soft way, and that's really what I resonate with. She also inspires me to just be myself and like dress the way that I want to. I used to dress very, very emo and dark clothing, and I really liked that style at the time. It was great, but I realized it was a mask for me, and working with Venus helped me let go of that, and she's teaching me currently one of the lessons that we are going through now that my Saturn return has begun, with Saturn being in Aries. I'm learning how to find my style again. That's why I look so cute today. So thank you, Venus. But anyway, those are the deities that I like mainly work with right now. And I wanted to explain the deities that I mainly work with right now because that kind of like segues into the tarot decks that I have and who I work with them and why. So I have with me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tarot decks for these 6 deities that we're going to talk about. I do want to note that you don't need 6 tarot decks or any tarot decks to communicate with your deities if that doesn't resonate with you, or if you don't have the accessibility, or if it's not safe for you to currently have a tarot deck. That is totally fine. Or if you just are somebody who wants one tarot deck and you don't want to expand your collection, but you use it with multiple deities, that's fine too. Not everybody is called to have a massive collection of tarot decks in their home. Like I said before, I have a Taurus moon, so I kind of like to collect a little bit. It brings me joy, it brings me comfort, okay? And I really like collecting tarot decks, so that's why I have them. But I will say, when a new deity comes into my practice, or like I start working with like a new spirit, I try to give them a tarot deck that I already have. Sometimes I have deities share tarot decks, like we'll talk about this more with Venus, but in the beginning I was working heavily with Loki when Venus started to come into my practice, so she and him shared a tarot deck for a while. So it is totally okay. It's your practice. You're allowed to do whatever you want for tarot, and however you want to approach it it's valid. That's your practice. You're meant to do it the way that it resonates with you. The other thing I want to mention before we jump into talking about each of these decks is my favorite way to learn tarot. So I've read a couple of books on tarot. I haven't read that many. I don't resonate with learning in that way. I resonate with learning by learning from other people and hearing their experiences, or creating my own experience. So that is what I did with tarot. What I would do is every morning I would shuffle my cards, I'd pull a card, and I'd just observe it. Okay, I wouldn't like try to make any predictions based on it, try to, make any connections. I would just observe what the card was. I'd leave it on my altar, go live about my day, come back at night, look at the card, and then say, okay, this is what this card was. This is what happened to me today. This is how that resonates with this card, and like make connections that way. So then I built my own spiritual dictionary. And now I would say I am a fairly accurate tarot reader for other people because I learned in a way that's like physical and resonates with me and practical, and like I actually lived through the tarot instead of like asking, like forcing the knowledge into my head. And for some people that works. The books works mostly. I learned a lot about tarot from books, but I didn't learn how to live through the deck. So that's why I suggest to do the other method. Another thing that you can do kind of similar to that is like intentionally pick a card from like the top of your deck. Be like, okay, this week we're going to focus on the sun, and then plan activities that you think would give off sun energy and like really live in that card so you have the experience. But I personally like to leave it up to spirit and like let spirit give me the card for the day and like go back at the end and see how it resonates. I still sometimes do this if I feel like I just want to get to know my deck again. So yeah, that is my biggest tip for learning tarot. And I have to shout it out. If you would like to get a tarot reading with me, I have an Etsy shop where you could book them. I will leave that in the description as well. Let's start jumping into my tarot deck collection. This is actually just a fraction of my tarot deck collection, but let's start jumping into the decks that I use a lot now collection and talk about Jesus's decks. The main deck that I use with Jesus is the Lightseers deck. I actually have two of these, one to read with myself and then one for my Talking to Jesus tarot readings that I do for clients. I love the Lightseers tarot deck. If you were to purchase one tarot deck that I have here today, it is the Lightseers tarot deck. It is great for beginners. I feel like it reads better than Rider-Waite because like there are actual people that you can recognize in these cards. They like actually look like people you would see on the street. They are very diverse. Each of the cards are like really representative of their energy. Like you look at that Six of Wands and tell me right now what you think that means. What do you think that means? Victory, celebration, loving yourself, like basking in your own glow. Like that, like come on, like that's so self-explanatory. I feel like these really work well with Jesus, which is ironic I'm going to say this. I feel like these work well with Jesus because they are self-explanatory and they like reflect real people. However, while doing tarot readings with Jesus, my friend Hannah, you guys might know her as Spirituality here on the interweb, she pointed this out in her last sermon for the ministry. Jesus talked in parables, so sometimes he gives us tarot readings in parables. So like, as much as the cards are straightforward, sometimes you're like, what is going on here? Because he's trying to make you think. That like, when she said that like unlocked something in my practice. I was like, oh, now I get what he's doing. Okay. So anyway, Lightseers deck. This is my main with Jesus. I absolutely love it. Now, inner child work is a big thing with working with Christ because in Matthew, he talks about how children are the ones who are going to gain heaven and those who think like kids are the ones who are going to gain heaven. So I like to do inner child readings with my cat tarot. This deck is so cute. It has kitty cats. I love it. I would say this deck particularly would be better for a more advanced reader who has their own spiritual index already created because the cards don't really, in my opinion, describe what they actually like mean. Like whereas something with the Lightseers deck, you can look at the cards and be like, okay, like the tower, there's a big destruction, but a big destruction through light kind of thing. Like it's easier to look at the images and figure out what it means to you versus these ones because they're just cute little key cats. They're cute little key cats. You know what a key cat? I love key cats. My favorite card in this deck is the devil, which is a dog. I love it. I love it. I love it. So when I do inner child readings, I do it with the key cat deck because like, can you get any more playful and inner childy than kitty cats? No, you can't. So that's what that gets used. Now let's talk about decks for God and Astra. So God and Astra share their tarot decks. I know a lot of people in my Discord community, the Jesus Witch Church, they use the Earth Woman Tarot for Astra specifically. I have not felt called to get Astra herself, her own deck. In my practice, they are very much like mom and dad, like together forever, like relationship, like goals, like anywhere he goes, I go, she goes, I go kind of thing, which I really like that with them. Like that's just how they work with me. So they share tarot decks. They currently have 2 tarot decks, but come August, they will have 3. I'm a collector. I'm a Taurus moon. What can I say? So the first deck that they have is this Wild Reflections deck by Y Spell. Oh my gosh. This one is so beautiful. Like, look at this deck. Come on. Like, come on. And it has the gold binding, like, Queen of Heaven royalty right here. Like, that is why I use this with them, because it just reminds me of a royal deck with the gold binding and the really beautiful, realistic human art. But they also, at the same time, even though they are, like, human, they still look very, like, ethereal and very, like, fairy-esque and beautiful. So I really, really, really love this deck for them. I think it also has a lot of good nature on it, which I think nature is really important, particularly with working with Astra. I also like how there's a lot of depictions of storms on these cards, and for me, God is a storm god. He gets us through storms kind of thing, and yeah, there's a lot of storms on here too. So it reminds me of them. And that's why I like the Wild Reflections deck for Astra and God. I use this more as like my daily deck with them. So like if I'm just doing like a random card pull, something that's not like seasonal, I will use this deck. This is the deck that I used in my first sermon for the ministry for our little tarot pull after. The second deck that I have for Astra and God, and the reason why I say they're going to have a third one soon, I have the Season of the Witch Winter Tarot. And in August, they're coming out with the Autumn Tarot. So I'm going to be getting that as well. If you don't know the Season of the Witch card collections, I am obsessed with these cards. These are what really started the collecting, I think, for me. Or maybe no, I lied. They kind of like satisfied the collecting itch, and now like they're really the only decks that I'm motivated to get. But they started with oracles. So there's an oracle deck for every single Wheel of the Year holiday. If we want to do another one of these videos with oracle, let me know in the comments. I have a very extensive oracle collection. I'm a collector. What can I say? So I fell in love with the oracle versions of these decks, and then this year, or in 2025, they released the Winter Tarot. So it is like your normal tarot deck, your standard deck, but with winter instead. And some of the cards are different. Like this is Self-Reflections. I believe that this is supposed to be Temperance. So they have some that are like more aligned with winter and like with the themes of Imbolc or Yule. That's what the deck is described as a journey through Imbolc and Yule. When I work with nature spirits, I work with Astra and God. Astra is Mother Nature. God is a god of the storms, the god of the sky. So I really love using these kind of decks with them, and that's why I use them. So for like readings that are more like wintry based or seasonally based, that's what I will be using these decks for. I really can't wait for the autumn deck to come out. I feel like that's gonna be so magical and so ethereal. And then the summer one will be the best whenever they get to that. I'm so excited. I love summer. I'm a big summer girly, so I'm so excited for these decks. I love them. They're so gorgeous. I know I said if you could only get one deck, get the Lightseers, but like if you could get 2 and you want one that's more of like a special deck, these are just so well made and so beautiful. Let's talk about my girl Lilith and the deck that I used for her. She has one tarot deck. the Everyday Witch Tarot deck. I chose this deck for her for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like Lilith is the witchiest deity that I work with, so having a witch deck for her like worked out. Two, there's a lot of black cats on the back, and I definitely associate her with the color black. So I felt like that made it more fitting for her, and a lot of black cat depictions in here in general. And three, this deck just gives me Lilith vibes, and that's very specific to me. I do know other people who use this deck. I think my friend Christina, who I learned about this deck from, she uses it with Lilith, but my friend Mary also has this deck, and she uses it mostly with Jesus. So I find that interesting because different decks will speak to us in different ways, or like the same deck can speak to each person in a different way, and that really like shows you how personal a witchcraft practice is. But this is the deck that I like with Lilith. It feels very witchy. She feels very witchy. If you get a Lilith reading with me, this is the deck that I will use. Lilith can also be a little bitchy in her readings, so if you get a Lilith reading with me and she's mean, don't shoot the messenger. It's not my fault, it's her. Now let's talk about the decks that I have for Mama Mary. So the main deck that I use for her is the Neoteric Feminine Tarot. And I wanted this deck for her specifically because I wanted a deck that had no boys. No boys allowed, only girls. I do think on the Lovers card there is a boy, which that did, I'm not gonna lie, that did make me a little disappointed. Like, I wanted an all-girl deck, okay? Like, this was supposed to be all girlies. So, yes. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, because look, we have the Two of Cups here, and those are two girlies. So, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Let's look through the deck. But I really liked this deck for her because, like I said, I wanted something that was like just women, and I wanted her to have a deck that was just women because Mother Mary really feels like the woman of all women's. Like, she survived so much. She said yes to so much. She had so much faith in her life, and I want to work with her in a way that represents strong women. Yes, I was right. There is a boy in the Lovers. I could have just done the same with the Two of Cups situation, but yeah. But I think that's the only boy in this whole deck, so it still passes Mother Mary's no boys allowed deck rule. I mostly use Mother Mary for parenting, so I do a lot of like parenting tarot readings with her, and like kind of finding yourself while being a mom. I feel like Mother Mary, obviously she's known for being a mother, but she was also just such a strong faith woman that's why she was chosen for this task with Jesus. And I feel like this deck honors that, and this deck really reflects that. However, a little while ago, if you were in my Jesus Witch church, you know this story. I lost this deck for weeks. I couldn't find it. It was driving me absolutely insane. And it turns out it was just in my altar where I thought it was, where I looked for it like 10,000 times. I live in a mountainy area, so we have a lot of fairies, and one of the fae definitely was fucking around with me with this deck. So for a brief moment in time, I did use my ethereal tarot deck for Mother Mary, and I wanted to share that with you while also like kind of segue into the next day, because this is a deck that I also use with Venus, and before Venus, this deck was Loki's. So that is like the point there that I was making in the beginning. You don't have to have a bunch of different tarot decks to work with different deities. I just like to do it 'cause we've established I'm a collector. I like to do it. I feel more like, I feel like I get like clearer messages for myself when I use different decks with different deities, and I also get to know their personalities for myself better. But just because that's how it resonates with me doesn't mean that you need 100 tarot decks. You could just use one and be okay. This deck resonated for Loki. This deck resonates for Venus. This deck resonates for Mother Mary. This deck is also, like, arguably the prettiest deck in the entire world. I love it. It is so beautiful. It is so ethereal. I got this deck when my mom and we took the kids for a trip to Mystic, Connecticut to go to the beach one summer, and then we went to a little metaphysical shop, and I got this there because I've been looking at it online forever, and I said to myself, I'm only gonna buy it when I see it in person and it comes to me, and it came to me on that trip. So I got this there, and then we also went to a Norse pagan store, and I got my first set of runes, which I really love my runes, but this deck is just so gorgeous. I worked with it with Loki at the time because I just needed a tarot deck to work with him with. There was no rhyme or reason. He was the newest deity in my practice. This was the newest deck I had, so they got together. Once Venus started to creep in, I was like, hey, Loki, can she share a deck with you? And he was like, I'm not going to say no to sharing with a pretty lady. So that's how that happened. And then when I lost this deck for a little while, I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to use this deck for Mama Mary. And for Venus, I don't have another deck, so I might as well just buy a new one. This is my Era's tarot deck. This is the newest deck in my collection. This was a influence purchase by some of my fam in the Jesus Witch Church. They all had it. They were all like showing me the cards. They were all using the cards. And then one day, you know, I thought I lost Mother Mary's deck. So this accidentally fell into my Amazon cart and then it got shipped to me. I don't know what happened. You know, so I like to use this deck for tarot readings with Venus and specifically self-care readings with Venus. Personally, listening to a good Taylor Swift song is self-care in itself. So obviously her tarot deck was going to be my Venus self-care deck. I love this deck for a multitude of reasons. One, Taylor Swift. Like, come on. Do I have to say anything else? Taylor Swift. Do I have to say anything else? We are all Swifties here. And if you're not a Swiftie, I'm sorry. Have you tried listening to Evermore? Because maybe, you know, if you listen to that, maybe you'll become a Swiftie. But anyway, I love this deck for the Taylor Swift of it all, for the pop girly. My first candle for Venus that I ever made for her was a Saint Taylor Swift candle. So, of course, like, she was going to get the Taylor deck. I also really love this deck because along with every card that you get a Taylor song. So along with getting a reading, you get a mini playlist to bop throughout the day. So I do my self-care readings with Venus with this deck. I feel like it helps check in on that. And like I said, having the playlist to bop to at the end, that's like great. Oh, look at this. We pulled a card here. I can do it with a broken heart. Who's pushing themselves to the brink too much? Come on. Let's stop doing that. Let's start to focus on self-care. Let's start to intervene before we're doing it with a broken heart. I'm going to be bopping this song for the rest of the day, though, because, like, Venus told me to. Yeah. So that's all of the tarot decks that I have to share with you today. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me to look at these decks and talk about them, talk about why they're so fun and gorgeous. I will leave the link in the description to my Etsy shop if you want to grab a tarot reading with me. In the description, you'll also find the link for my free Discord group, the Jesus Witch Church, my Patreon, the ministry stuff, everything, all the other places you can find me. You will be able to find them in the description. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you liked it. If you have any suggestions of anything else you want to see here, let me know in the comments. And also let me know in the comments, what is your favorite tarot deck? And what deity do you work with it on? Or does it work for multiple deities? What kind of readings do you like to do with it? Just give me the scoop on your favorite tarot deck. So anyway, thank you again for joining, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!